Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. I just knew that this news was going to break when I was busy doing something else, and that's exactly what happened. I'm very glad to be making this video tonight. It's nearly there, it's imminent. Todd Boehly's first signing for the men's team. It's going to be Raheem Sterling. Matt Law breaking the story that Raheem Sterling has agreed personal terms with Chelsea over the transfer. Talks between Premier League rivals expected to reach a conclusion in the next 24 hours. Chelsea's talks with City and Sterling have been going on concurrently, with the 27-year-old expected to cost a fee similar to the 45 million that Arsenal have just paid for Gabriel Jesus. Barring any unforeseen complications, Chelsea are hoping Sterling will be in a position to fly with their squad to the US on Saturday ahead of matches against Club America, Charlotte and Arsenal. With Belgian striker Lukaku, who earns 325 grand a week at Chelsea, having left on loan to Inter Milan this summer, Sterling is due to become the highest paid player at the club this season, being awarded a small uplift on his 300 grand a week deal with City. It's massive news. It's, I think, a sense of relief, because you can feel that growing frustration as we get closer to the season now. I mean, it's a month till Chelsea kick off against Everton in the Premier League at Goodison Park, and just that sense of seeing other clubs doing deals, which is always frustrating, I think, for supporters, even if maybe the context of your club is a little bit different. And we knew this summer was going to be difficult, but we also knew this summer was going to be busy and it needed, major investment. I mean, I think we have all been looking at other areas of the pitch for major investment, that being defence and central midfield. But if you go back and watch my video a few weeks ago when we got the reports out initially that Chelsea were interested in signing Raheem Sterling and that he maybe would be up for the move, I sort of laid out the pros and cons. And for me, the pros do outweigh the cons in this situation. I think Raheem Sterling, whatever way you slice and dice it, has been one of the Premier League's most consistent and productive attackers over the past 5 to 6 years. I think some of the numbers that I was looking at as I've been writing pieces for Football London about him are just so impressive. And it's not only goal scoring, which I think is obviously his best trait as a winger, quite outstanding numbers from a wide position, but it's also, I think, on top of that, some of the creative numbers as well, and just sort of career numbers compared to some brilliant players either he's played alongside or maybe the sort of players that Pep Guardiola has coached throughout the years. I mean, just looking at some numbers here, 109 league goals in 320 appearances. Since the 17-18 season, only Jamie Vardy, Harry Kane and Mo Salah have more goals. Specific to Guardiola, only Lionel Messi and Sergio Aguero have scored more goals as well. So some incredible company. For combined goals and assists under Guardiola for top flight teams, he sits above Kevin De Bruyne and only behind Messi with 186. He has created 250 chances in the last 5 seasons, only sitting behind Son and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for non-penalty goals per 90 among wide attackers in the Premier League since the 2015-16 season. I also think that Sterling is just a very impressive character. I think if you've watched his career, which I think the good thing about Sterling, part of I think the cynicism and kind of rejection of Sterling by some Chelsea fans maybe has to do with familiarity. Like, people know about Sterling. There's no kind of hidden twist about his career. There's no mystery there in the sense of bringing in a player from maybe the Bundesliga who's a little bit younger, which is what we've done in recent years. I assume most Chelsea fans will have a good gauge of what Sterling's career has been since basically he broke through under Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool all those years ago, and kind of his development moving to City, the scrutiny that came from leaving Liverpool from large sections of the media, the scrutiny in his early years playing for his national team as well, but how he's grown and some of those big performances he gave and some of the big goals he has scored for Man City over the years. I think he'll bring in a character who has dealt with that adversity, has grown as a player, but quite clearly has that motivation to maybe step up again and prove himself again, despite being involved in a very successful team over recent years. I do wonder if this kind of has the Cesc Fabregas type vibe to it. Cesc moved from Arsenal to Barcelona, very successful player, moved to Barcelona and felt at sort of a similar age of his career that maybe he needed to move back to the Premier League and prove himself, wanted that regular game time, and I think Jose Mourinho very much got that out of him in such a wonderful way. I think Sterling, maybe if Tuchel can cultivate the same thing from Sterling in such a key position and such a key area that Tuchel is under pressure to fix this season, from a player who knows how to play in a possession-based team, understands the physicality of the Premier League as a wide player as well, can be effective off the left and the right. So there's versatility there, and seeing some reports that maybe Tuchel is focusing on wide sort of ferocious attackers who maybe can adapt the system a little bit. I know we've talked about maybe his confidence and going on runs of bad form and those missed chances which many people have picked out. Or, looking at the fact that Chelsea's creativity isn't as good as Man City, that's quite obvious, and things that Tuchel needs to fix, I think, on top of just signing Sterling. But the reality of Raheem Sterling, the sort of just bare numbers in front of us, I think you have to be impressed. And I know that some people were concerned by the wages we're paying him. But in terms of readdressing the balance, if Sterling adds the value that we're paying him, I don't think it's that big a problem. The big problem that Chelsea have had in recent years is that we've been paying a lot of players who haven't been adding the value that we've wanted them to. Sterling is prime of his career. He's seemed to be very durable throughout his career as well. Sure, maybe that will change, but it's an opportunity like this to buy a player of Sterling's caliber and numbers is quite rare. And if he can remain motivated, if he can remain fit, if he can sort of start to replicate the numbers that he had at City, and also I think maybe lead some of the younger attackers, if the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, who maybe is trying to get to Sterling's level in the coming years, Christian Pulisic, if he sticks around as well, maybe he can have that influence and the England connection across the team as well with Ben Chilwell, Reece James, Mason Mount. It's exciting, it really is, and I think this is such a statement signing from Man City, and I think that just listen to some Man City fans, the way they're kind of fearful of losing Raheem Sterling. Some of that, of course, is sentiment and emotion, but speaking to City fans who've been watching him, they will talk about maybe the poor run of form and maybe not being at the same level as a few years ago, but they still talk about a very productive player and someone who is at times underrated and underappreciated for what he actually does in the team. Just the social media term, the tap-in merchant. I think that a player who is a tap-in merchant, who is constantly in the right place at the right time, means he's a good player. He has great anticipation inside the box, and you are dreaming about maybe the link he could have with Reece James, the link he could have with Mason Mount and Kai Havertz in maybe a front three, and all the different combinations we could see, on top of maybe another attacker coming in as well. So I'm excited to see this deal done. It's the first transfer of the Bole era. My hope is this is the first of transfers, a change in transfers that starts to really improve the first team, and we start to see that maybe just symbolically the fact that it is 45 million and we're not going upwards of say 70, 80 means that the football gods will be kind to us, because it seems like whenever we go beyond sort of 50, 60 million, we're getting into dangerous territory with Chelsea, and they seem to go quite wrong. So maybe the 45 million is a good sort of range for Chelsea with Sterling. And listen, I'm excited to watch him play for Chelsea. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's, non-Chelsea players, I think it's just been so incredible to watch him in recent years, and I think to see how he could improve this attack fills me with excitement. Listen, we were saying similar about Lukaku last year. We know things can go wrong, but all I can do is sit and look at the numbers, sit and look at what Sterling has done throughout his career, and I think that the facts in front of me show me a productive player, show me a good player. That's what we can say in July of 2022. I don't know where we're going to be in July of 2023. It's silly to try and guess that, but I think more pros than cons. I think Tuchel hopefully can really get the best out of Sterling, and also I think that Sterling can maybe start to improve an attack that has just been not performing at the level we wanted it to, and maybe add that consistency and also mentality that he will bring from City, a ruthless winning machine that I think Chelsea will want to become again in the coming years. So those are my thoughts on Raheem Sterling. It's imminent. Hopefully we'll get an official announcement. I mean, the kit launch is, as we know, quite imminent as well. So I think for Chelsea, that's quite a nice little tie-in. I'm sure there'll be people going out, maybe buying Sterling shirts in the coming weeks. And we'll get to see him hopefully very soon, not only training with the first team, but also in those games in the US. So thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.